Photographers often feel frustrated by the 30-second shutter speed limit on many cameras. What they may not realize is that there is an easy way around this limitation if you know how to use it. The solution is known as bulb mode. Hang out to the end of this video because I'm going to explain everything you need to know about bulb mode to improve your shooting. Hi, I'm Jim Costa. I'm a full-time working photographer, video producer, video editor, and technology pro. If you like what you see in this video, stick around to the end because I've got a couple of photography, video, filmmaking, and editing freebies, and even some training courses I'll tell you about that will definitely help to improve your work and help grow your business through earned media exposure. You can help to support my channel by purchasing my training courses, requesting my free downloads, and even hiring me to shoot or edit for you. Remember, I welcome your comments, questions, and more on all of my videos. If you like what you see, subscribe to my channel and hit that bell to be notified every time I upload a new video on Wednesday. I've also done many other videos on improving your photography and video production, and I'll link to those in the description below as well for you. Bulb mode is simply a shutter speed option that you can select in manual mode on your camera. It allows you to use your shutter speed at any length of time that you choose. 1 second, 1 minute, 17 minutes, or anything else. The key with bulb mode is that your camera's shutter stays open for as long as you hold down the shutter release button. The limit on your bulb exposure depends on your camera. Sometimes it's 30 minutes on many cameras. Sometimes it's as long as you like or until your battery dies. So how do you access bulb mode? Not all cameras have bulb mode today, but most DSLRs and mirrorless cameras that are pretty good do. This includes nearly every Nikon, Canon, Sony, Fuji, Olympus, and Pentax DSLR or mirrorless camera on the market. It is easy to check if your camera has bulb mode. Turn your camera to manual and shift your shutter speed as long as it can go. Usually after the 30-second mark, your camera will show the letter B as your shutter speed. This is bulb mode. So, how do you use bulb mode shutter speeds? If you've never used bulb mode before, you may be confused why the B option appears to take very short exposures. For example, say that you have bulb mode enabled and you simply press the shutter speed like normal. In that case, you will only capture an exposure of a fraction of a second. This is because the bulb mode requires that you hold down the camera shutter release button during the exposure. If you hold down the shutter button for 45 seconds, that will be your exposure. But if you simply press and release the shutter button like normal, you may get a half-second exposure or even less. Generally, there is no reason to use bulb mode if you are under 30 seconds of exposure time, or whatever your camera's longest native shutter speed may be. The main exception is if you are photographing stars at night and you want to be very precise about your shutter speed in order to avoid star trails, but even this is usually overkill. One big problem remains. Pressing down on the camera shutter button in bulb mode almost always shakes the camera and introduces blur. That is simply because your hands themselves inevitably shake. Even with the steadiest tripod on the market, you're likely to get a blurry photo if you use bulb mode like this. So what can you do about it? Often the best solution to avoid blurry exposures in bulb mode is not to touch your camera at all while it's taking a picture. Instead, trigger your camera to take a photo using a remote shutter release. Every popular camera on the market today has a compatible remote shutter release, so Google search for your desired remote shutter release by typing in your camera name followed by the word remote release. Some of these remotes are wireless, they work infrared, while others are wired cables actually connected to your camera. You can also buy certain remotes with additional options for time lapses and other specialty photography. If bulb photography is your only goal, however, it does not matter what kind you get. Any cable release on the market that works with your camera will let you use bulb mode the proper way without actually touching the camera. Note that some remote releases have a locking mechanism to hold down the external shutter button automatically as long as you like. Others allow you to press once to start the exposure and a second press to end it. A few cameras even have a bulb mode that you can trigger from your iPhone if you desire with an app. Regardless, using bulb mode with an external remote, you are no longer touching your camera during the exposure and therefore eliminating shake. That way, you can capture extremely sharp, ultra-long exposure photos with ease. There's another feature similar to bulb mode called time exposure mode that I want to tell you about. A few cameras today have something even better than bulb mode, called time mode. In this case, you don't need to hold down the shutter release button at all. You simply need to press the shutter button once to start the exposure and again to end it. I don't know why every camera on the market doesn't have this extremely useful feature, but that's the way things are. Luckily, many new cameras today have this option. If your camera has a time exposure mode, there are few reasons to use the standard bulb option any longer. Time mode has all the same benefits without the drawback of using a remote shutter release. Time mode is accessed exactly the same way as bulb mode, by going beyond a 30-second shutter speed in manual mode. Cameras with time exposure option generally label as the letter T. There is something you gotta watch out for: image noise with long exposure photography. I like using bulb mode and time mode in dark conditions. The results you'll get beyond the ordinary 30-second exposure limit are often incredible, but you do need to watch out when shutter speeds are very long, especially several minutes or more. If you're not careful, your image quality can suffer greatly. Specifically, camera sensors heat up quite a bit if your exposure is long enough, the very reason to use bulb exposures in the first place. This heat translates into image noise. This thermal noise, as it's known, is less pronounced if you are shooting in cold conditions because your camera stays cold and therefore doesn't get as hot, but it still pops up eventually, depending upon how long your exposure is. On top of that, because your exposure is so long, any hot or stuck pixels on your camera sensor will appear exaggerated in your image. The easiest solution is to avoid ultra-long exposures, especially longer than 8 to 10 minutes or more, but that's not always feasible. If you really need extremely long shutter speeds, you do have a couple of options. First, you could enable something called long exposure noise reduction on your camera. That setting causes your camera to take a second exposure after your bulb mode shot, this time with the camera shutter closed, resulting in basically a black frame. Your camera will then subtract the second frame from the first frame, decreasing some thermal noise and minimizing hot pixels. But long exposure noise reduction means your camera spends twice as long taking each picture, since it literally captures 2 photos each time of the same length. That's not ideal when you're already shooting 10-minute exposures or longer. If you want to learn more about this advanced topics, check out the video I did on long exposure noise reduction. I'll put a link to it in the description below. Instead, some photographers will take a series of shorter exposures, still using bulb or time exposure mode, in combination with a slightly higher ISO. They'll wait a moment from shot to shot so the camera can cool down internally. With this technique, you can average out the image sensor noise in software like Adobe Photoshop. It's a way to simulate extra long exposures without actually taking them. However, it's also a bit of an advanced technique, and you may be better off sticking with single image bulb photos until you're practiced at it a bit. Plus you actually know how to use either Lightroom or Photoshop to do this. The world looks completely different with multi-minute exposures. It's something I think everyone should try at some point, regardless of your genre of photography. Now, if this is making sense to you, but I've got it in the comments section below. My question of the day this time is not an actual question. Comment below with a link to your Instagram or online portfolio so we can all check out your long exposures. Leave that link in the comment section below. If you found the info in this video useful, I'd like to hear about it from you. If you liked it and want to see more videos like this, then follow my YouTube channel, Jim Costa Films. If you think what you saw was great, please like it. If you have an opinion, feel free to comment below. If you know someone who could benefit from the info I provided, please share the video. You can connect with me and my company, Jim Costa Films, on social media and online, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and the web by searching for Jim Costa Films. In fact, I currently have over 4,470 videos on my YouTube channel, Jim Costa Films, so feel free to check out many of my other videos for great tips and suggestions. Thank you for sticking around this long. I mentioned at the beginning about some freebies and training. As a professional video producer and photographer, I've created an absolutely free cheat sheet for you on all the best camera settings to shoot with your DSLR, mirrorless, and video camera that will show you the settings that will allow your photos, and particularly your videos, to shine and stand out from the competition. The link to get that cheat sheet is just below in the video description. Best of all, my cheat sheet specializes in shooting video with any type of camera. In it, you'll find all the info you need on important video techniques, such as white balance, color temperature, frame rates, and more. I've also created an editing training for Adobe Premiere Pro. My Quick Start training is designed to get you up and editing video in under 2 hours and includes over 100 tips, tricks, and keyboard shortcuts for video editors to make your editing workflow go much smoother. And now, I'm also affiliated with Christina Nicholson, a fellow media veteran like myself who helps businesses and entrepreneurs reach tons of their ideal customers or clients through the power of media without spending big bucks on advertising. I've worked with Christina and used her advice and training successfully, so I know from firsthand experience that it works great. The program Christina and I are now offering is called the Media Mentoring Program, and it will help you take advantage of mainstream media so you can stand out from the competition, because that's not something everyone has access to. Best of all, unlike paid ads and sponsorships, you can gain lots of exposure and credibility to become the go-to brand everyone talks about and wants to do business with without spending a fortune on advertising. I'll link to those cheat sheets and training courses in the description below as well. There's videos on both courses that will give you an overview of how they can help you and links to get more information. Finally, if you follow me for a while now, you may know that I have a private community of photographers, videographers, and filmmakers just like you on Facebook where I share other pro tips and tricks. It's called Video Producers and Content Creators. I love new members who want to share their work, learn from others, and also help others with their own skills and experience. You'll find a link to that group in the description below, so feel free to join it where you can learn even more.